Hey, we're live.
Oh, all right.
Sorry about that. We had a little technical difficulty, and
It was Paul's fault.
It was Paul's fault. I think his metal plate in his head interfered with the Wi-Fi.
It's entirely possible.
Yeah. So, but we're back now. You know who I am. I'm John, your host for everything on the channel. I have Paul Nolan, Trevor Park, and Eric Child here with me. These guys you know from the Fern Creek and Western in Santa Cruz. That's the garden railroad that I go to quite often for all kinds of neat stuff. And we had a video about the Halloween event that you guys put on that was pretty darn cool.
Yep.
Best one ever.
Thank you.
We had over 1,300 people this year.
Right? So why don't you guys talk for a minute while I send a message to someone to let them know that we're on live on a different channel now. Because I got a message as soon as the other one booted everybody.
Yeah, it happens. That damn metal plate.
Yeah.
Talk about Halloween.
Paul's metal plate. I think it interfered with your ability to read the labels on the fog machine too.
There's some tinfoil.
Yeah. Yeah, he that thing finally died after that whole incident.
Yeah, but it bought you a new one, so be happy.
Okay, yeah, he did. Actually, he told me I bought a new one, then he told me 5 minutes ago he was going to pay for it.
The fog machine?
No, the bubble fog machine. When he dumped the bubble
fog.
juice into the back of it. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah. So
that actually happened.
We usually have a huge crowd out in front popping the bubbles.
Yeah.
It comes out.
Yeah, I just wanted to,
And it keeps
Yeah.
them
Too
from
many
coming
people.
in too fast, but
oh, the bubbles?
No, the people
The people.
from coming in so that they
Oh, because
have-
there's a bunch of people.
they're
popping bubbles?
entertained outside.
I'm against crowd control.
I mean, this year it was like this, handing out the candy.
Yeah, I mean,
I mean,
you
we
couldn't even walk
Take a bowl like this, 5 minutes, gone.
Yeah. Even just
one
we were
piece per kid.
One piece per
Right.
kid.
We were talking off camera before we started about the Halloween
Yeah.
thing, and I made the comment that I thought it was odd just handing one piece, but if you saw the crowd that was there, you know it was so they wouldn't run out.
Yeah, if you wonder how we estimate how many people we get, we started with 750 pieces of candy. We got rid of all of it, and we only handed 2 pieces out per kid the last half hour. So,
It's a lot of people.
and we figure at least one adult per kid. So,
Yeah.
you know,
So
a lot of people.
I want to thank everybody for joining us, and sorry about the little snafu with the other stream. Kind of talking for a minute here to allow everybody who was on the other stream to come back to find the new stream. And the reason why we're here today is because I wanted to have these guys come in. I've been talking lately a lot about young people in the hobby and bringing young people into the hobby and how to do that and that kind of thing. And these guys are a great example of that exact thing. And so I had this idea probably sometime last month to have them come in here and kind of tell their story and tell, where it all led, because it's kind of a neat story, I think. So anyway, that's kind of what we're doing today. And I don't have the keyboard right in front of me, so I can't add text answers to anything, but I've set up a monitor so that we can see the comments. And as long as they don't go by too fast, if you guys happen to see a comment or a question that happens up on the side here, feel free to answer it if you want. So maybe we should just get started with happy holidays to everybody.
Yeah, happy holidays.
Before I
Happy
forget,
holidays.
Happy holidays.
right? I like to use that greeting because it doesn't assume anything about who's watching.
That's right.
If, somebody might celebrate Hanukkah. That's a holiday, so the wish is still valid that way. So anyway, let's get started and maybe just kind of talk about how did you guys meet? I think that's a neat way to get started. It kind of takes it back to what I was kind of intimating about in the first place.
Well, it kind of started with Trevor and I first. Weirdly, Trevor's aunt was actually my next door neighbor for many years. And through that, Trevor visiting at her house, like for, events and stuff, or like Thanksgiving and such, and Christmas or whatever.
4th of July.
Mainly 4th of July.
Mainly 4th of July. Well, I'd come over to my aunt's house all the time.
Yeah.
So when my parents would be over there and all the adults were hanging out, and I was the youngest in the family, I needed someone to hang out with. And so I started hanging out with Paul. And actually, the first time we ever met we introduced each other to ourselves by I pushed Paul into a puddle of mud.
Did you? I don't remember that, but
Yeah.
I believe it.
Yeah, no, that's what I did. I pushed him
No,
into a
I've heard
puddle.
that story.
Yeah.
I pushed him into a puddle. My parents were there when it happened. I pushed him into a puddle of mud, and that's how we became friends.
And he's never recovered
No, I
since.
haven't.
Oh.
That's why he has the metal plate in his head.
It was a tough fall.
Yeah,
But Trevor and I have known each other for a very, very, very
like
long.
18 years or something.
Yeah, like almost my entire life.
Yeah, we were like 1 or 2 when we met or
Yeah.
something. Yeah.
And we had many a struggle when we were young, fighting over trains and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
But
The struggle is real.
yeah,
We had fun though. We always
did.
had fun.
Trevor would come over to my house, and we would go in my garage with my very small HO layout that's still there, and we would try to build like the weirdest. We tried to build switchbacks on a small layout. And it just
Oh yeah, and then we
didn't work.
had the mud pit outside with the
No.
we had the mud pit outside with he got a bunch of G scale track, and we had a mud pit
Yeah.
outside in the back of the house, and we built like all these crazy loop things and with this like mud pit, and everything derailed constantly. It was a total disaster every single
It
time.
was horrible.
It was horrible, but we had a great time.
We probably put the power into the water and shocked ourselves a couple times too. Yeah,
So
muddy water.
we had fun though. So and the other thing was that got us into trains being at Paul's house was the Santa Cruz branch line runs past Paul's house right across the street, which at the time was owned by Union Pacific, and they ran a 3-day-a-week cement train out to the cement plant out at Davenport.
Mhm.
And so we'd sit out in the front yard and watch the UP freight train go by. And that was kind of what got us into it.
My neighbor was nice enough to let me run up, and she had like a garage that was close to the tracks, so I could climb the fence and sit on top of the garage and wave to the crews that went by, all like the patched SP and Denver Rio Grande.
Yeah, this was
Jeep.
back in the early
the old-
2000s,
the
and
old
a lot
Jeeps,
of the
huh?
old units
Yeah.
were still running.
GP40
Like
SUs
cotton
and
belt
stuff. Yeah,
Jeeps,
cotton belts
right?
as well.
And
I've
actually-
seen a lot
and
of cotton belt.
And it
Jeeps on
actually
that
turns
line.
out that we went to the same daycare together. Remember?
We did, and my
And-
mom.
And the
there,
train ran past there as well. So we'd sit out in the courtyard and watch the train go
run
out
up
there.
to the fence, and
Right, yeah.
wave at the crew.
So how did Eric fit into all that?
Well, I think you can talk about that
Mhm.
part.
I first saw Trevor. I didn't meet him. He down from where he lives, there was a gentleman who had a fairly extensive garden railway, and it was a beautiful setting because the garden railway, and you just look out over the
valley,
whole,
yeah.
whole valley there.
Yeah.
And I was there for an open house, Bay Area Garden Railway Society, and there was this blonde-headed kid,
Not so
and
blonde, now it's dirty blonde.
you'd figure it was his layout and his trade because he obviously had control over everything.
It sounds
I'm like,
I
I'm like
did-
6 years old at this point.
Some things don't change.
No.
And I did, yeah, it wasn't until years later that I realized, oh, that was Trevor. So,
That's hilarious.
but 13 years ago, we had a group of older gentlemen, and we called ourselves the Over the Hill Gang. We were all members of the Toy Train Operating Society. We used to go over and run trains at Falco Shopping Center. And we'd usually, carpool over and have lunch and everything. It was a social event. And we said, maybe we should try and do something here.
Oh,
In
so
Santa
everybody was from
Cruz.
Santa Cruz?
Yeah, everyone was, the group, was mostly Santa Cruz people. And we started looking, could we find a place to run trains? And being Santa Cruz, even back then, no, there wasn't any place we could afford to run trains. So we approached the Museum of Art and History, which is in downtown Santa Cruz, and we said, what would you think if we did a Christmas show and with toy trains and let, the kids come in and take a look, maybe push a few buttons. And I think the first year we ran 13 years ago, I think Paul came down.
Yeah, I actually remember it really well. It was my first grade class, I think, and we actually took a field trip down to it. And I remember seeing Eric there behind the thing, and I was like, whoa, this is so cool. And I remember Eric mainly because I think you were handling most of it.
Yeah.
And I was like, that's so cool. I want to meet that guy. I want to get behind the scenes and start working on this. It's so cool.
And then I think it was the next year that Trevor came down.
Yeah, because I heard from him. He was like, "You got to come down to this thing." And at that time, I was very much into toy trains, O-gauge 3-rail stuff. And that was kind of when I did model trains. That was how I got into
Still
it.
puts his Lionel set
I still
up
put
for
my Lionel
Christmas.
set up for Christmas. Yep. But I wasn't really a modeler. I was more of a toy train guy. And so seeing an actual like toy train setup like this, I was really, really into it. And so Paul and I got involved actually working behind the scenes and setting up and, you know, helping kids run the trains. And we would bring our trains in because you had a couple O-gauge trains. I had a couple O-gauge trains. And we'd bring them down and run them. And we were down there, gosh, maybe at least 3-4 times a week during the Christmas break.
We used to run for, 2.5 weeks down there. We started off in this little tiny room. We could fit 3 4x6 tables and ourselves, and maybe 12 people could view it at a time.
Yeah.
It was really small. And so
but extremely successful.
It was very successful. We had all kinds of people, and we quickly realized we needed more space. And the museum volunteered to let us use their atrium, which is a pretty large area. It's where you first go into the museum. And so we expanded, and it's a 12 by 24 foot layout now. And at various times, we've run additional things. One year, Trevor put together a switching layout with all kinds of Lionel accessories and found out really how they didn't run all that well and took lots of work to keep going.
Oh, yeah. And then the other thing is that we tried to pack way too much. It suffered from what we like to call Trevor syndrome, which is packing way too much track into a small area.
You're good at that.
Including as many switches as you can possibly, get in.
But
which
when
I'm guilty of.
But when it ran really well and it was cool. It just didn't run a lot of the time.
And one year we did an additional section for HO.
Oh, right.
Which
We had
was-
my
And
which
we
layout.
was
brought
Paul and I,
Paul's layout down, and we had somewhere acquired another layout.
Yeah, we acquired it from a coworker.
Lee Williams, I think.
From a coworker from rowing camp, Lee. Yeah,
Oh, he ran the general shop there.
he ran the
for a
general
while.
store there
Yeah,
for a while. Yeah,
General shop. I meant the general store. I
the
remember.
shop is the
I remember-
engine house.
Right.
the
I remember
store
his
is-
name. Yeah.
But
Nice
it's,
guy.
it's,
Great.
it's pretty much, stayed the same, ever since. We have the basic 12 by 24, and each year we try something a little different. This year we're going to change from standard gauge, which was a gauge of toy trains, tin plate used in the Depression era, really.
Is that what they call O-gauge?
No,
Or is
this
that-
is standard gauge.
It's the big like tin plate pre-war.
It's
like the
space.
big-
2.5,
Yes.
2.5 inch
Like
wide
T-scale
track.
size, kinda.
Yeah. The whole toy train thing's still somewhat of a mystery to me because
Yeah.
I know they have some different terminology. So
Well, we can solve that mystery for you.
I'm sure you can.
We can solve it for all of you too. Come on down this year. We're going to be opening December 21st at the Museum of Art and History, which is at 705 Front Street in Santa Cruz. We'll be operating daily from 10 to 6, and except New Year's Eve, Christmas Eve, we close at 3 usually, and we won't be there Christmas Day or New Year's Day. So the 21st through January 6th we'll be running. It's a lot of fun. The kids finally get to run the trains. Earlier, we just ran the trains and let them watch and maybe push a few buttons to operate an accessory. Then we went to TMCC, which was Lionel's proprietary version of DCC, I guess. Very, not very powerful, but we had little controllers for the kids to run the trains. And now we have the Transformers out in front, and they can just go at it. we of course have a secret way in the back to control the voltage so that they don't go too fast.
Oh, right.
But it's a lot of fun. There'll be 3 tracks for O-gauge trains. And during the week when we're not quite as busy, if you happen to have some sitting in the attic, bring them down. We'll try and get them running. We'll have 1 gauge of G-gauge running. We'll have
that's the replacement for the standard gauge he was talking about. And hint, you might see a piece of Fern Creek and Western equipment running around there occasionally.
You might, yes.
Is that when you go?
That's when
You
I
gonna
go.
bring something?
I might bring something down.
Except it's all at my house, so I might bring something down too.
Ooh.
You never know, right?
You never
He won't
know.
touch the big engines though.
No.
Why not?
He's scared of the
I'm afraid of breaking them.
Oh,
They have
right.
so many fine little parts. And for those of you who might be American Flyer fans, we'll have 2 loops of track running American Flyer S-gauge trains.
Oh, cool.
So it's just a lot of fun. Lots of kids come down. They really enjoy it. Parents come down. We get an increasing amount of people that, oh, I've got my old set. Do you think you could help me get it to run? And often we do. It's just really wonderful. And we've got kids that started just like these 2, and they work their way up to where they're out there helping the kids run the train, or they're back behind the curtain controlling everything. So it's really worked out extremely well, and we're very happy to do it for the community. It introduces the kids to something that usually when they're smaller they like, and then some of them continue on, some of them don't. It's all okay. It's just fun.
We got the bug.
Yeah.
We got the bug, and it's a
They
good
got-
thing because if it hadn't been for something like that, we might have not stayed in it. You never know.
Right. Well, I want
And
to.
we've got a kid that started out probably around 6 or 7, Liam, and he was with us every year. Moved to Sacramento. He still comes down when we have our toy train show.
Yeah.
Very cool.
So it's fun. That's the important part.
Right. And I wanted to talk about that because you said something, Trevor, that is one of these. Yeah, it's one of those things that I come back to, which is everywhere you go. Well, everywhere I go, I talk to people who are part of groups, and they say that, oh, there's not any young people. We need to bring more young people in to do this, that kind of thing. Why don't you talk about a little bit about how the event that Eric was just talking about in Santa Cruz sort of, and you guys could both talk about this because I think it affected you both.
Yeah. Definitely.
How did that draw you in, and how did that affect you in a way that made you want to continue doing train related stuff? Because this is really what we're talking about
Right.
here.
I'd say a lot of it for me, of why Ma really captivated my interest, was that they allowed the kids to run the trains. I mean, and I'm not expecting that everyone out there who owns a toy train is going to let a kid run a toy train. There's some really expensive trains out there, but a lot of organizations kind of suffer from the syndrome of, well, I'm behind the curtain controlling the trains and you're there to view. And they don't let the kids interact with it. And if it's not interactive, you're not going to captivate an audience, in my opinion. So I think Ma does a really good job of captivating the kids' interest and letting them have some control over the train. And I think that, in a way, is kind of what hooks them. Because if they don't run the train, they just see it going around in circles. It's not particularly interesting. You're there for 5 minutes. But there's kids at Ma who will sit there and run the train. They'll sit down there for 3 hours running the train. They have to rotate out so other kids can run the train, right? But if they could, they would hog the controller for the entire time.
Right.
That was me and Paul. And then we got behind the scenes. And that's why I built the switching layout so that I could hog the controller the whole time. But and actually on that same subject, and I don't mean to interrupt you if you were going to talk about Ma, but about a couple days ago, there was a young gentleman. His name's Jordan. He just turned 6 years old. It was his 6th birthday the other day. And he's been coming by our Garden Railroad for at least a year and a half now. And they actually his family lives up in Felton, which is near Roaring Camp Railroads where I work. And they come ride the train with me. But they come by the Garden Railroad, and his wish for his 6th birthday was to come over and run trains on the Fern Creek and Western. and he's extremely passionate about it, extremely gentle with the trains. You know, he's like Paul and I were when we were 6 years old. He's that into it. And so we absolutely entertained it, and we let him come over and run trains. And he sat there for probably 5 hours following the engine around with, you know, a train, and he ran the train. He did a great job, and he started getting to the point where it would derail, and he could put it back on the track, and he was backing engines up around switches and stuff. I mean, he got into it. So we hope that through doing something like that and through doing something like Ma, that we can captivate young people's interest and continue to grow the hobby.
Right.
That's the idea.
Should mention, because it threw me off for a second, but I know because I know the acronym. When he's saying MA, it's an acronym for the Museum of Art and History, MAH. I heard that before. That's why I know. But people watching might be like, what's he talking about?
Ma is
his
MAH.
mom. You haven't talked about his mom yet.
Ma is Santa Cruz County or Santa Cruz. I don't know. I think it's Santa Cruz County Museum of Art and History.
Right.
Yeah.
MAH. Yeah. So, but what were you going to say, Paul? It sounded like you wanted to say something about that too.
Sure. Yeah, I think Ma for me, it was, I mean, definitely what Trevor said, being able to run the trains, and just, I liked how generous everyone was that was working behind running the trains. They weren't like a bunch of, you know, guarded guys that don't want to, you know, keep their trains and not let anyone use them, or because if you put them out in the public, you kind of have to expect that someone's going to ask about that. But I mean, it's not, you don't have to do that, but it's just nicer. And I really appreciated that they let me and everyone else run the trains. And it was also helpful for me because I didn't really have a big layout at my house, and I still don't. So the chance to run trains like long distance and actually put in time, like, you know, being able to run was really interesting.
Yeah.
And I can, you know, there's still a lot of kids that absolutely love trains. I think you all know the Fern Creek and Western is at my house in Santa Cruz. And I've got neighbors constantly after me. When are you going to run trains next? When are you going to run trains next? And the kids come by and when are you going to run trains?
Yeah, and I think that's actually a good segue into how Fern Creek started and all that.
Yeah, I mean, because that is. I want to also pick your brain a little bit, Eric, because being that you're like, what drives you to do it? What makes you want to? Because you're exceptionally nice to give so much of your time to do this.
True.
And I would imagine that there are times, because we all know how kids can be, where it might even test your patience at times, right?
I'm getting old. I know I don't look it, but I'm getting old and I need slaves.
He's a spring chicken.
Oh, is that what it is?
Yeah.
He's using the kids to get chicks.
I need slaves. That's, you know, the whole thing.
So that's what these guys, what those around these guys' wrists, there's scarring from the
shackles.
The shackles.
That's where our hands are below the.
Right. They hold their hands down so you can't see the scarring. Yeah.
I love trains. I've always loved trains, and I like to share it with other people. And you know, a lot of the joy comes just from seeing the lights light up in somebody's eyes,
right?
As you know, as they're exposed to the hobby. You know, whether it's toy trains or scale trains or you know the real thing.
Yeah.
It's just really a lot of fun. So, I mean, that's why I do it. Is I like trains. I like to play with trains. I can appreciate models. I like other people to enjoy trains. And like I said, there's just nothing like the look in a kid's face when he gets to play engineer.
Sure, activating the controls. I totally go with what you're saying. I get it. Because bringing joy to other people, it's sharing the joy.
Yeah.
Right? You increase joy by sharing it.
Yeah. I
think that's cool. So, and I kind of figured that was probably the motivation, but haven't really talked that much about it before. Yeah. But it's really great. And I would tell you that I admire what you do.
Oh, thank you.
Because you're doing things in a way that's
bringing
people.
You help us by doing things like this and doing things on the Fern Creek and Western so people know about us. The more the merrier.
I don't think if it was for that layout tour video, the original layout tour, it would have been as popular as it got. You know?
Yeah.
That layout tour has like 60 or 70,000 views.
It has quite a few views on it. And
I mean,
I think that Well, we're going to talk about some of the changes that you're making
Yes.
to the track arrangement on the Fern Creek and Western, and we'll probably talk off camera about it, but I'll mention it now since it's top of mind for me,
Yeah.
and I tend to forget stuff.
Yes.
I would like to do a new one.
Yes,
A
I
full
agree with that. Well,
new
this
layout
year,
tour, 'cause
this
it's
year,
a lot different.
this year is the year to do it, because actually in June, I think June 8th, I believe is the day, we are celebrating our 5th anniversary
Mhm.
from when we started the railroad.
5 years.
Yeah, kind of hard to believe, but it will be 5 years since we started it, from that little piece of track in the backyard. And actually, I do think it is kind of interesting to talk about how we started that whole thing and why we started it.
Sure.
I mean, so after one day at Ma, we were at Ma, I think I was probably like 12 or 13 years old or something. This was, what was that, 5-6 years?
Last year, yeah.
Anyway,
He tolerates it.
so Eric actually at the time was working in Niles Canyon, on the Niles Canyon Railway, as in the car department, restoring cars. He was helping on the restoration of a Southern Pacific articulated chair car at the time. And so I kind of caught wind that he was working on the real thing, and I was like, well, I'd be cool to come up there. And he was like, oh yeah, totally, come up and we'll show you around and this and that. And so I went up there with him, and I got involved at PLA, Pacific Locomotive Association, working on cars at Niles Canyon. So I'd always go over to Eric's, and we'd carpool from Eric's house to go over and work on cars. And at the time, there was a small little section of the yard in Eric's front yard that had a garden railroad in it. Tiny little section of the yard. Maybe it was like, I don't know, like 12 feet by 5 feet. And I was like, oh man, it'd be really cool to have the garden railroad go all the way around the house. And then I found out at one time it actually did go all the way around the house. And
I
point,
got old and needed slaves.
Right.
at some point, I convinced him, because I had always wanted a garden railroad. I mean, it had been my lifelong dream to have a garden railroad. From the time that I was at that guy's house that Eric was talking about where he first saw me, I really wanted a garden railroad. And my parents liked having flowers in their front yard.
So did mine.
And so I wasn't allowed to do that. So finally, I found someone that would succumb to the pressure of me wanting a garden railroad, and Eric agreed to do it. And so we started with a very, very simple plan, and now it's grown exponentially. and got
That was
more
your first
complicated.
mistake, Eric.
Yeah,
Yeah.
he's made many since then.
You gave in.
He gave in, and so now it's grown to somewhat of a small garden railroad empire.
It's pretty big,
It's
actually.
pretty.
I mean,
It's not small.
We had to take out about a 30-foot high tree, 40-foot
And
high
a fence.
tree, and a fence, and a few other
gate.
things.
and you narrowed your driveway for the lumber
Yeah.
yard on the lumber
Yeah,
industry.
driveway
side,
got
right?
narrowed. We built both sides of the house.
Dug
Yeah.
ponds.
Dug a pond. Yeah.
So when I say it's big, it's not that it's big, but
Yeah.
you're using every possible inch of.
Oh no,
ground.
we're not.
Well,
I
it
got more. I
seems-
got more plans. I got
Yeah, it
so many
seems
more
like
plans.
it.
Yeah, no. So we started it, and kind of started blind on garden railroads. We had track, but then we finally started getting up to speed on the different scales and G scale and all this and that, and how to actually build a garden railroad properly. And then we started expanding, and I think we had our first open house in 2015. I believe it was the first year we had an open house, or 14, one of the two. But we got lucky. I think it was the second or third year we started doing open houses. We got really lucky because some people down the street had a connection with the local newspaper. And so we had a front page article written about us in the local newspaper. And that open house attracted the better part of 500 or 600 people. It was absolutely insane. We were not prepared at all. For
No.
it.
Still not as big as Halloween, though.
Still not as big as Halloween, but Halloween, the people stay like 5-6 minutes max.
Right.
Open houses, people stay half hour, an hour. So it was standing room audience only.
Yeah. And if they bring kids, they stay even longer. And then the
Exactly.
kids are screaming when they have to
So-
leave because they don't want to.
We started getting the same question of, can I run the train? Can I run the train? Can I run the train? And we really didn't have a way of doing it back then. We were still using track power at that time. And we just started converting stuff over to battery, and we were still new to that. And also on the main line, when you see in the videos that we're running 4 trains, it's a single track main line. And we have 4 or 5 passing sidings, and the trains have to meet on time exactly to make it work. So we don't let kids run on the main loop, but we started letting the kids run in the front back and forth in
the yard.
In
right?
the yard,
Yeah.
yes. Which is actually how that kid Jordan I was talking about who came over got into it. It was you. He actually mentioned your name.
Oh, okay, so it was
The
one
guy-
of the kids that I let
Yes,
play
yes.
the train. Yeah.
Yeah, and he was like
He's-
that guy John who comes here and runs the trains. Yeah, he
Yeah.
let me run the train last time this year.
I remember I was out in the front yard, and I think there were a couple of kids. Well, I think it happened in the backyard too. 'Cause
Oh yeah.
wherever I was, little kids come up, and I actually tried to initiate it, because what you were talking about, Eric, how they light up.
Yeah.
I love that. You just bringing happiness to other people
Yeah,
is one
yeah.
of my
So-
favorite things.
So now we dedicate an engine that sits in the front, and with a couple of cars, and we let them run it back and forth. So it's important at the Fern Creek and Western now that we do that as well.
Sure.
So we try to do it as much as we can, when time allows. But now that probably is a good time to talk about the expansion, because we're talking about letting them run in the front in the yard. That's where the redesign is happening. We're actually ripping out the rail yard in front completely, and moving it to a new location in the front. So it used to be in the center section across the river from where the main line is, right next to the driveway. We're ripping it out and moving it over to where the house is, where the station in the town used to be.
Is that so that you can bring the city closer to the front? Where people
That's
can
one
see
of the
it?
reasons. Yes,
Yeah.
we're bringing the city closer to the front of the station, and the town is going to be where the yard was. But we're also ripping out the connector loop that goes between where the main line is and that bridge in the front, and we're bringing the main line down way off the hill and flattening the grade out and bringing it into the center section,
Okay.
so that the grade is less intense through there, because the grade is pretty steep.
And it's
And
curved.
we
it's
discovered
curved,
we,
and
we
this-
discovered live steam.
And we discovered live steam. And
Oh,
live
right.
steam doesn't do too well on super duper steep grades.
Oh, you just got a new locomotive. too.
Yeah, well, we now have 2 live steam engines.
Yeah, didn't you get a mogul or
I
something?
got a 260 mogul. One of my coworkers at Roaring Camp had it, and he wasn't going to do anything with it.
Right.
And I got it for a really, really good price, and so I had to break down and buy it. And so, I mean, it does okay. It'll make it up the hill, but not with many cars. And it's just, it looks not really realistic having that steep of a grade on a main line like that. So we're flattening it out, broadening the curves out, and it actually works out better because we're going to have a reversing loop now.
Oh, good.
We're tearing the Y out, and we're going to have a reversing loop.
That'll be easier to.
So you can turn a whole train really easily, not have to reverse direction. And a loop will actually be oriented so you can head back up the hill. And we move the yard into an area where there's shade, so you can actually use it. And it's completely isolated from the main line.
Oh,
So you
so
have a
kids can
lead.
go.
So you have a lead to the yard, and you can actually switch the yard while trains are running on the main line. And it's a bigger yard than is in the back.
Cool.
So, and we're moving the engine service facility into an area where there's shade, which will be larger, so we can, have engines sitting there, and they'll be front and center, so you can see them from the street. And so
You'll
it's
have
gonna look really nice when
You'll
we're all
have
done with it.
to let me know when the track is all laid so that we can do it.
An opening day,
Well, a new layout to it
Yes.
is what I'm thinking.
yes,
Because
for the 5th anniversary.
it'll be different enough.
Oh, it's already
I
different.
mean,
enough.
because besides that, what you said before too, you're not even running track power anymore. So
It's not running
everything's
track
either
power.
live steam or
and
battery.
the other thing is we have the log branch now,
Right.
which is a big thing. We
There's
have
a
a
lot
we have
more.
a branch line that goes up the hill that's
Yeah.
specifically for geared engines, and we've added sidings in the back. We've redesigned, the way that the track goes up the hill in the back with broader curves and more
Yeah.
bridges, and it's changed a lot since that time.
We'll show it all on the next layout
Yes, we
tour.
will.
Yep.
I think we can treat that as if it's a new thing altogether.
Yeah.
So cool. That's exciting.
It is very exciting. We're looking forward to having because the current yard the way it is not functional. It was an area that we'd like stage cars for looks at the open houses, and that was about it, because it was pretty poorly out of level. And the other thing is it was in the beating down sun, and so you had to stand in the sun to switch, and you'd get very severely sunburnt
Sure.
if you'd stand out there too
Well,
long.
that's one way to limit how long the kids take at the control.
Right,
if
right.
The parents want to.
Right.
Get
So
'em out of the sun.
anyway, so we're redesigning it so that it's in a much better place and it's bigger and it's way more functional and we can actually use it. So that's the idea.
I just realized, guys, that I've been kind of not paying attention to the comments.
Yeah.
Has anybody seen any comments? We are live, so if you have a comment or a question,
Yes.
you're welcome.
Yeah.
to
I've been too
type it
busy
in.
talking.
Yeah, I just noticed that it's moving on that side there, and I can't really see it that well. And these glasses aren't the
John
right
has to get his
thing for.
glasses on.
Well, right when I take my glasses off, I'm not as smart either.
Yeah. Right.
So, but yeah, maybe we should do. maybe we should do a little bit of Q&A for a minute. Yeah, thanks, nice hands. Really appreciate that. But
He's talking about the ones that I catch on the coast.
Of course.
Yes.
I wanted to mention one thing. I purposely wore my Dirt the Cat shirt today because I wanted to remember to mention that I've been working really hard and intensely on the annual Steam Special, which this year is about Nevada Northern. And I think it's turning out really nicely. So that's going to be out on the 5th Saturday of the month. I think it's December 29th. So, and I'm really excited about that. That's why I wore this, to remember to talk about how excited I am about that annual Steam Special. I'm not sure right now, but I'm seriously considering making it the final Steam Special. But it's really because of a matter of material around here that's within driving distance. But I can talk about that some other time on a podcast. But the Steam Special is really good. I don't know that I've done one as good as this yet. So
I'm looking forward to it.
So Nick's asking about the firebox flicker on the Bachman Shea. Because remember, we were having a problem. We did an install that it was the how to install a DCC into a garden scale Bachman Shea with 3 professionals.
Yes.
That was me.
Oh, that was fun.
And Trevor and Kevin Hill, who's in Idaho right now.
He is in Idaho,
Yeah.
the land of potatoes.
Oh, yeah.
Right? And
I rode along. I actually got to go down to Watsonville and ride along with Kevin on his freight train. That was pretty
When
cool.
did you do that this week?
On Wednesday, yeah.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, that was fun. Kevin is managing the new Progressive Rail operation down there, and they're doing an amazing job. It's really incredible. They have gotten like 3 or 4 customers back online down there in Watsonville.
Yeah,
They're doing a great job. And Kevin's doing a great job managing it.
I keep seeing articles. I don't know if they're ads or what, but it's promises kept, and they're getting those tank cars.
Yeah,
that
they're
have
moving
been-
all the tank cars
that
out,
have been
which
in
is good.
storage.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was an Iowa.
And the engine's really
Yeah.
the engine's really nice too. The new engine they got, it's nice.
Clean, nice as Watsonville.
It's clean and nice, and it's got a new paint job, and it runs nice too.
I think he said that they're going to send out another
Possibly,
G15-1,
yeah.
the matching one to
Yeah,
that.
that's what
So
it sounds like.
That would be really cool to have the city of
Mhm.
Watsonville and then the city of whatever it happens to be, probably Santa Cruz, I would imagine.
Yeah, no, it
That would be
nice.
really cool,
It would
like
be nice.
bookends.
Yep, it would
So-
be nice.
But yeah, that's a really cool thing.
But anyway, so on the firebox flicker, to answer the question, the reason that the firebox flicker didn't work on Kevin Shea was it turns out his Digitrax throttle doesn't access higher function buttons. So if you know anything about DCC, you'll know that like a Digitrax throttle has functions 1 through 9 on it, and it would have and 0 for the headlight, and it would have a shift key that allows you to go, okay, well, shift, and then 1 would be 11, 0 would be 10. It shifts up.
Right,
digit.
2s to 20s.
It's 2s,
right?
and if you shift again, it's 2s, 20s.
Okay.
The Tsunami extra light functions are initially mapped to functions, I believe, 24 through 28. And so because his throttle couldn't access the higher functions, we couldn't turn it on.
Right.
There's a way to go back and map the functions to a lower function number, which would work for his controller. But mapping functions through a Digitrax decoder is a real pain, or through a Digitrax throttle is a real pain. Now, Kevin actually just got Wi-Fi throttle pretty recently in JMRI. So now he can program it through Decoder Pro. And it's really easy to map it through Decoder Pro. You just click on the function, go, I want this function on that and this function on that, and swap them. And it's really, really easy. So if he can do that, then he'll be able to get his lights working no problem. But it was just because we ran out of time and we couldn't access those higher functions.
We were pouring through the manual online.
Yeah,
Where's the higher function?
And we
couldn't
figure it out, and there was no way to shift. So that's why the firebox flicker lights. But there's a way to map the function. So in theory, they should work. We've never actually tested them, but in theory, they should work.
Yeah, I mean, it wasn't even a matter of we didn't even know if it was hooked up right, because if you get the LEDs in the wrong direction, it won't turn on.
Yeah.
We couldn't even turn it on.
Yeah.
To see if it worked.
Yeah.
That was the problem.
We actually got another question there. Have you tried Loke sound on G scale? No, I personally haven't. If you look way back a couple of years ago in some of the install videos, the first battery install video you ever did, that was actually a Loke sound decoder that we used.
Okay.
But I haven't done it just because they're a lot more expensive. They're about $100 more expensive than the tsunamis. But now with the new, I do battery, so I don't know how it would work on DC. I'm sure it would work even better on DCC. But now with the new converters which are the receivers from AirWire that are compatible with the Loke sound decoders, they work really, really well.
Oh,
They
good.
sound great. So yeah, no, it'll work with battery or DCC and G scale. The Loke sound, I think it's a 4 amp board, and it sounds great. I use Tsunami 2s, and I actually just got a TCS Wow sound decoder for the Mali.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah,
Interesting.
well, the first one I got, I somehow blew the amplifier out on it, so I had to send
no.
it back. But
That's fine.
the new
I
one,
destroyed one too.
yeah, he's destroyed one too.
I got it for free though.
Oh yeah, that's right. You run the Facebook contest.
Yeah, I won the Facebook contest.
That's right. I remember that.
Mhm.
So anyway, so that's gonna be our
You won a Facebook contest for a video. This guy wins everything.
yeah.
If you want to win something, have him enter.
No,
Yeah, right.
Don't talk to me.
What else did you win? You won. Wait, what are you talking about?
And I
that you
think
won?
John's
He
right.
won a video.
Oh,
Oh, that's right.
The TSG multimedia video.
Oh,
at
that's
some point.
right. I remember
Yeah.
that.
it's
Yeah.
like, okay.
And it wasn't until later on I realized who you were. Like,
Uh-huh.
oh, I sent that to a kid, because at the time you're probably 15 or 14 or
Uh-huh.
something. He's 12 now.
Yeah.
Yeah, it went down.
Yeah.
No, but that was funny.
Uh-huh.
Oh boy.
Yeah.
Someone's saying that they loved the American Flyer repair video and thought it was amazing. Well, thank you. And that's one of the things. Max's Model Railway said that. Somebody else commented that they want to see one about Lionel, but I don't. It sounds like you have Lionel, don't you?
Yeah, but I don't know nothing about working.
You don't know how to work on them.
I could repair just about any G scale engine, but Lionel, forget it. I can't do that.
Okay.
Um,
I'm gonna have to.
I'm
find
sure he
someone
knows
now
a
that-
lot. I'm sure he
Oh.
knows quite a few people that could repair Lionel stuff.
Well, maybe we can talk.
He
off camera
is an
later
American
on.
Flyer guy.
Yeah.
Look at his hat.
He is an American Flyer
Look at
guy.
that.
I want to.
turn to the camera. Look, he's got even got an American Flyer hat on.
I want to mention this because I didn't even know about that other room at your place that has all the other trains in it.
Oh yeah, that's another thing we did recently. Is
What's that?
the American Flyer in the garage
Yeah,
Oh,
I
is
know
now,
about that.
is now in the bedroom.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
Yeah,
and
you
the
opened up the
entire
garage
the
for
entire
G-scale?
garage is completely G scale now.
Oh boy.
There's actually a workbench in there now.
And how-
And
Trevor
Trevor
G-scales.
has instructions. He's not buying anything ever again.
How
No,
much
that's not
did
true.
you have to
I
put-
bought. He just got. I gave him a caboose for Christmas that I bought.
Was it
Early
early that
Christmas
I bought?
present. No, it wasn't. I bought another caboose.
Or that he bought.
No, I bought.
No, he bought it.
I bought it.
No, I bought it.
No, I bought it.
No, I
No,
bought
but
it.
who's on first? No, but it isn't the one from the
No,
the,
it's not. It's a different.
It's a whole different
It's
caboose.
an AccuCraft short caboose.
Oh man, so you just
And,
really
and now he says for Christmas we have to buy the
AMS passenger
AMS
cars.
passenger cars about that long.
Yeah.
he's out of control.
They're beautiful though.
I'm
Yeah,
sure
okay.
they are. Yeah.
See, he wants them too.
I do.
Yeah. See.
Nick is asking if you would explain the differences in scales.
Oh my God! How much
or
longer?
gauge.
How much
Well,
longer do we?
No, I think no. Maybe I'll try to take a stab at that because I think
No,
get
I
it.
can do that.
Well, okay.
I can do that.
Maybe you can help me understand it then,
Okay.
because my understanding.
So.
Oh,
No, go ahead.
I was saying my understanding is that the track is the same,
Yes.
but what's different is the size of
Okay.
the equipment.
Exactly. So
Okay.
all G scale trains, really it's G gauge,
Right, because that's the-
runs on 45 millimeter track, 45 millimeters between the rails.
That's the gauge.
That's the gauge.
Right.
Okay. So if you change the size of the train relative to the track, then
The scale
proportionally, if you have an engine that is 1 to 20.3 scale, the track under it proportionally would scale out to 3-foot gauge. If you have 1 to 32nd scale, that track is going to scale out to 4 feet 8.5 inch gauge
Standard.
in standard gauge in 1/32nd scale.
So the equipment actually looks smaller.
Right. So if you have standard gauge equipment in G scale, 1/32nd scale is true standard gauge. It looks smaller than narrow gauge equipment because they're running on the same gauge track, but
Right.
you have to change the scale of the engine relative to the track
To make the track look
the
smaller,
track look smaller.
Yeah.
you have
Right.
to
It's-
make the
so-
engines bigger.
It's
so
really
the
goofy.
scales, and I'll go through this. I can go through it pretty quick. 1/32nd scale, 1 to 32 is true standard gauge. 1 to 29 scale is not true standard gauge, but is really, really popular. It's what USA trains, which is a popular manufacturer.
Right,
Of,
and it's pretty close.
It's
right?
pretty close.
Yeah.
1 to 24 scale, 1/4 inch scale is a really easy scale to work in because it's a true derivative of a foot. 1 to 4.
Yeah, just
so-
divide things by 4.
Exactly. It's
Yeah.
really, really easy. Well, it's 1/4 inch scale. It's 1/4 inch equals a foot. Okay. I think I don't do well with scale, so I think that's how it is. But
Fractions weren't my
fraction,
strong
yeah.
suit
So,
either.
so yeah, no, I'm pretty sure it's 1/4 inch to the foot
Oh, wait,
scale.
here, let me see if I can do it like this. No, I still
Yeah,
don't get
no.
it.
It's 1/4
That's
inch.
smart.
It's 1/4 inch to the foot scale, and it's what Aristocraft made most of their stuff in. And it's really easy to work in, but it's not true to any scale that I know. It might be true to, I think it's true to 42 inch gauge or something, or maybe it's.
Well, I'm
it's
sure
true.
it
It's true to
scales down to
something.
something,
It scales
yeah.
down to something.
Or scale up.
Yeah, and then you have 1 to 22.5 scale, which is what Bachmann Big Haulers and LGV is. LGV was a really popular and still is a really popular manufacturer of G scale trains. That actually scales out to meter gauge.
So that would be some kind of a European thing.
Yeah, which is
generally.
why LGV did it.
Yeah.
And then 1 to 20.3 scale, which is what we model, is true American 3-foot narrow gauge.
No, there's a name though. That's FN3,
That's-
isn't it?
That is how they've differentiated themselves from G scales by
Right.
calling it FN3, but it's dicey as to what it acts. It's F scale on G gauge track.
right.
you
Yeah,
know.
it's really confusing.
It's very confusing,
Yeah.
but it's 1 to 20.3 scale. And then I think the next one down, and this is one I always screw up, is 1 to 13.7 or something. And it scales out to 2-foot narrow gauge on that track. And the stuff is huge.
Wow.
It's massive.
Sure, the equipment is.
The equipment's massive.
Yeah.
But it scales out to 2-foot gauge.
It's very confusing. I like the smaller scales better because
yeah.
then you have
Because HO scales they change the size of the track.
1 to 87.1 or whatever,
Yep.
and then you have to get a special track for that. 'Cause
Right.
Even nowadays, people will comment on some of the videos on the channel here. It's like HO gauge. It's like, what's HO gauge? You mean HO scale standard gauge? Is that what you're talking about?
Right,
because that's really what they're talking
Right.
about.
Mhm.
So there was another question that someone was asking a minute ago. Of course, now it's scrolled up. Let me see if I can access that real quick. I got my mouse here. They wanted to know about what you prefer. I think Nick was asking what you prefer. Oh, I guess I didn't go too far.
1 to 20.3.
Oh, what do you guys prefer?
Yeah, what do you prefer? And I think I know the answer is the CFN3, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean,
That's what all the equipment is, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, I think it looks the best of anything. I mean,
It
here's
definitely
the
looks
thing.
good on the track.
Here's the thing about narrow gauge is that narrow gauge generally ran shorter trains,
tighter curves.
tighter
right?
curves, steeper grades. You can get away with it in a small garden. Even though the equipment's bigger, you can make it look right in a small garden. In our railroad, if you had a 40-car reefer block in the standard gauge, it really wouldn't look right.
It wouldn't
No.
work.
No.
No.
Yeah.
So
It would look kind of cool.
it would look kind of cool, but
it wouldn't be
look
right. Yeah.
So, yeah, and I'm kind of a narrow gauge guy,
Well, you work on Roaring Camp, which
Yeah.
is 3-foot narrow
which
gauge.
is 3-foot narrow
right?
gauge. Well, and the standard gauge too.
Oh, that's true.
I do both.
Well, but now, and this is funny, we talk about getting started early and then going on to doing other stuff. And Trevor, I just have to tell this story because it's funny to me. Trevor moved to Oregon, right?
Yeah.
To go to college, and within a week or maybe 2 weeks, he's posting video or pictures from the Oregon Coast Scenic, which is what, a 2-hour drive from.
Yeah, hour and 40 minutes. But no. So
He can't stay away. He's hopeless.
okay.
You're already
Can't stay
working
away
there.
from it.
I'll
Yeah.
okay.
Speaking of standard gauge, right? 'Cause
So
they run on
yes,
standard
no.
gauge.
This is a good segue into how we've moved on since
Okay.
being at law and all that.
Okay.
So I had my like first birthday party at rowing camp or something. Like I've been around rowing camp forever. Like it's like my second home. And I started working there like as an employee when I was 16, and I became train crew when I turned 18. I was working in the shop, when I was younger, 16, 17. And then when I turned 18, I became train crew, conductor and all, and on the narrow gauge. And I got to be, train crew over on the Santa Cruz Big Trees and Pacific, which is their standard gauge operation. But when I moved to Oregon for college, rowing camp is like I would say one of the premier tourist railroads in the United States. Like
on the West Coast for sure.
On the West Coast for sure. But
everyone knows what it is.
As a railroad, the narrow gauge is probably the toughest railroad to negotiate in the United States. Second only to Cass Scenic Railroad. It's at the steepest grades, the tightest curves. We run a ton of trains. It's really an amazing operation. So when I moved up to Oregon, my parents, after dropping me off, were driving down the coast, and they saw a steam engine sitting out on the coast in a place called Rockaway Beach, Oregon. And they went up to the engine, which happened to be McLeod River Railroad number 25.
Right.
And they talked to the engineer who was their operations manager and said, "Oh, our son just moved up here. He worked at rowing camp, yada, yada, yada." And I still do work at rowing camp when I'm back on my breaks. Matter of fact, I have to go there right after this live webcast.
Riding the train later.
Yes. Yeah.
Working the train later.
Yeah, Paul's riding the train with me later. I'm working the Holiday Lights train. But anyway, so the operations manager said, "Well, if he worked at rowing camp and he wants a job, have him give me, a call, and we'll set up a qualifying run and this and that." And so I got out there and did a qualifying run, got hired it's a paid volunteer position. It's kind of like because in order to get around the insurance with the railroad, with the line is still owned by the Port of Tillamook Bay, so they have to pay the train crew.
It's complicated.
Right.
But you are paid as train crew.
All the hoops people jump through to make it legal.
Right. And so, but no, they do. It's all good. Like
it's legal.
It's legal.
Right.
Yeah. And so I went out there, did a qualifying run, and within a month, I got promoted to being a locomotive fireman. So that was pretty cool. That was an amazing opportunity. It is an amazing opportunity. I'm still there. I got to, staff the photo charter that they just did there as a fireman and a conductor. I mean, it's a wonderful organization. They do some really great stuff. They just finished restoring or rebuilding a locomotive called Skookum, which is a 2442. Absolutely incredible job they did. It's an amazing, amazing rebuild. They did a great job on it.
I understand that it was faster than people expected too, wasn't it?
They have 14 years.
Yeah, but weren't people expecting it to take longer to actually get it completed and running?
Well, yeah, I mean, they definitely worked really, really hard to get it done in the end.
Mhm.
They were working on it full time. But they did a great job on it. It really is an impressive rebuild. And from what it started as, which was a parts basket,
Mhm.
it rolled off of a bridge and then became a parts basket. And so they've done an incredible job with it. And they have they have the McLeod 25 out there, which was the engine used in the movie Stand By Me.
Mhm.
And they also have
From the bridge scene.
And they have the Polson Logging Company number 2, which was an engine that came out of a railroad museum in Wisconsin recently. And so they got some really nice equipment.
It's a really pretty railroad there.
Yeah,
too.
and you've ridden. You actually went there before I did.
Yeah, I went
We
there.
both did.
Did you went to? I think
Yeah,
I
I've
went
been a
back
couple
in
of times.
2013 maybe or something, and I actually rode in the 25 in the cab.
Oh, cool.
Out of
Garibaldi.
out of Garibaldi to Rockaway Beach and back. Yeah, it was really neat. I took a video too, I think. But
Yeah,
It's one of those places I want to.
it's actually on the
get
YouTube
to-
channel.
I want to get there now. I know someone that works there.
Yeah.
So it makes
No,
it
it's
even better.
a great operation.
up
It's
there,
a
huh?
beautiful, beautiful line. It runs right along the coast, and then after it goes along the coast, it actually cuts up into the mountains and goes right along the river, the Nehalem River, and then up into the Salmonberry River Canyon. It's
Yeah.
How
it's
long
just
is their-
amazing.
How long is their run overall that they can run it?
Well, the line they currently run, the short trip they do from Rockaway Beach to Garibaldi in the summer is like a 10, 12 mile round trip, something like that.
Mhm.
The entire line that is currently operational is about 46 miles.
Oh wow! Do they ever run the whole thing?
Occasionally they run the whole thing. For this recent photo charter that they did up there, which was a Laro Productions photo charter, we went over almost the entire length of the line,
So
minus about 10 miles.
43 miles to the end, or 43 miles round trip?
End to end.
Oh wow! So that's a long day.
It's
That's
a
cool.
long run, yeah.
Yeah.
So
That's really
and they
cool.
got some very interesting, things that are going to be planned in the next few years. So they're a great operation. I'm really happy to be working for them. And then when I come back here during my breaks to the Bay Area, I get to go work at Rhine Camp, which is amazing. And they've kept the door open for me, and I can't thank them enough for keeping the door open for me so that I can continue to work at my home railroad.
Sure. And this is what I mean though, talking about young people that get into railroads, it started with just toy trains, grew into something bigger than that. And now the other thing that I thought was really cool, Trevor just posted this past week pictures of the 4449.
Yes, I
talk about a kid's
Tell
dream.
us what you did last Sunday.
Saturday.
Sunday
I was firing.
recovering.
I was firing on the Oregon Coast Scenic on Sunday.
I'm not at all jealous.
No. So I actually, through that photo charter I was talking about, they had crew members out at Oregon Coast Scenic who are, they don't come out too often, but they come out when there's these big charters and stuff like that. And one of the guys who was running one of the engines was out there, and he is a fireman on 4449 and actually now also an engineer as well. And so at the end of the photo charter, after I worked with him for a few days, he was like, "Oh, well, we're running Holiday Express in Portland soon. You should come out and ride on the 4449 in the cab." And I was like, "Oh, yes, absolutely."
Trevor's over there going, "Yeah, I don't know. It's kind of far."
It's like, okay, it's
Big
a rail.
deal.
It's the rail fan dream. Okay, so I went out there last Saturday and I got to live the rail fan dream and ride in the cab of Southern Pacific 4449, and it was incredible. I mean, that engine is absolutely amazing. Like, they've done an incredible job maintaining it, that crew out there. And I mean, even though it's running back and forth doing only 10 miles an hour, it's still absolutely incredible.
I want to make a video about your life. We'll call it Foam Dreams.
Yeah, you get to do
Foam
things that
Dreams.
no one else gets to do.
I got lucky.
Yeah.
I got lucky. Yeah. No, it was so much fun. It was great. I never ever dreamed that I was going to be able to do that, but
Well, there it is.
here we are.
And all it took was just being in the
Right
place, basically.
It's
right?
all about who you know.
In the end. That helps. So now you also are still into trains, right?
Yeah.
I mean, you've become quite a modeler.
Of course.
Yeah.
I mean, in my time that I have, which I don't have, I
Your
look at
spare time.
my spare time. I have all my Southern Pacific and 1950s stuff just in my closet in boxes, but sometimes I take it out and pretend to run it.
Well,
Sometimes you
actually,
take it out and drool on it.
Yeah.
actually, so I model Southern Pacific 19, same era he does,
You know what you're
and
thinking.
What a coincidence.
we did it on
We like
to run
yeah.
trains together.
Yes.
We sometimes do it at my house, but
But you didn't invite him to go to 4449. What's up with that?
I don't
You
know.
didn't
man.
invite me either.
What's up with that? You didn't invite me either.
Mea culpa, mea
Get our
culpa.
pitchforks.
Yeah, no,
you have to deal with the angry mob now.
Yeah.
You didn't know that's what this was about, did you? We were trying to get you in the same place so we could all gang up on you for not inviting us.
yeah, no. So, Paul and I occasionally go to Golden State Model Railroad Museum in Richmond and run our trains on their layout, which is an incredible layout that models basically, well, one of their lines models the line from Oakland up to through Martinez and up to Roseville. Both lines go to Roseville, and then the other one. Now I know.
Yeah.
Now it's still I know that, but I'm getting there. Both of their lines on the lower level go to Roseville. The other one goes up over Niles Canyon and Altamont and that sort of thing. But then when they meet in Roseville, they both go up Donner Pass.
Right.
So Paul and I take our SP 1950 stuff out there and run
Oh, cool.
occasionally.
Did I tell you that I finally got to see that place?
Yeah,
I went out there.
it's incredible, isn't it?
Oh yeah.
It's huge.
Yeah.
It's absolutely amazing.
We're gonna do. I'm working with the guys there. We're gonna do. 3 layout tours.
Yeah, and Paul and I actually ended up. Well, I started going there because my grandpa lived there, right like 5 minutes from the place. And then when he passed away, we kind of stopped going there. But then Paul and Eric and I all worked for Golden Gate Railroad Museum for a little bit as volunteers, and
got to work on the 24/72.
got to work on the Southern Pacific 24/72.
That's super cool.
And one of the guys from Golden Gate is a member of GSMRM.
That would be
Dave Roth, yeah.
Right.
And so he lets Paul and I come there occasionally. and
Mhm.
trains.
You know what's funny? When I went
He
there,
even let me run.
Yeah, he
That's
did.
pretty
Oh, that's
good.
right. I took you one time, and you got to run my my little Sacramento Daylight.
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
you were important enough to go to the model place, but not to the 44, 49.
I'm gonna get. I'm never gonna hear the end of this.
I think we're onto something, guys. We can
I think
abuse
we need
Trevor.
to make a video on that.
It'll just be us giving Trevor crap.
The video is just gonna be like them chasing me around with pitchforks and
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
angry mob
Torches.
coming after me.
Grabbing him by the neck.
And they're gonna try to hang me.
Yeah, but by the time it's over, you'll look like one of those animatronics from the Halloween.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Instead of your. It was funny
You can
though.
always use one more.
Right? You'd make a good zombie. He's over here. I don't know how to respond to that. We got to wrap this up pretty soon here because we've been going for an hour. But I want to mention something that I thought was funny. So, I've been wanting to go to the Golden State Museum, Model Railroad Museum, for a long time, but I didn't really know anybody, or I didn't know that I knew somebody involved there. And so I went up, and because a guy actually contacted me through Facebook, and I talked about this on the podcast, but I'll recount it here real quick. And when we got there, Dave was there, and I didn't recognize him right away as who he was because it's not the same context. You know,
Yeah.
I talked to him and saw him a lot up at Brightside up in the canyon. I think around 2008 or 2007, some 2009, whatever. And I actually talked to him a lot when we were there. Like when I would see him, I'm, oh, hey, Dave, and we remembered each other. You know, that's how often I would see him. And then he was there at this model place, just completely out of context. And I kept looking and I go, God, I know this guy from somewhere, and I couldn't think of it. And then finally, just through conversation, he mentioned his connection with the GGRN. I was like, oh, that's where I know you from. And both of us were like, oh, because he was looking at me, this guy looked familiar, and he couldn't place me either. It was so funny.
Yeah.
And it's funny how you run into people.
No,
like
I
that.
actually, the reason we started going over there was I was in town. I was in Santa Cruz. It was probably 2 years ago, and my parents and I went out to breakfast, and we hadn't seen Dave in a couple of years because after GGRM's moved to Santa Cruz fell through, we kind of stopped going over there.
Yeah,
so I hadn't seen Dave in a while, and we ran into him at breakfast in my town.
What were the chances of
What
that?
are the chances of that? And he was like, "Oh yeah, you should come over to Golden Gate Railroad Museum, Golden State Model Railroad Museum." And I was like, "Oh, I haven't been there in like 3 years. I totally want to
Yeah.
go there."
He told me that he'd retired from GGRM.
He
so
has retired from GGRM and is enjoying a nice retirement. I hope.
Yeah.
that's what he said.
He's a
So,
he's a really generous guy.
definitely, yeah. I
If
mean,
it wasn't for him, we probably wouldn't have gotten involved in the Golden Gate Railroad
Yeah,
Museum. He's
Yeah.
a really nice guy.
well, you know, and that just goes to the whole impetus for this show today was to talk about being encouraging and
Exactly.
welcoming and nice and all that. 'Cause
if it wasn't for the generosity of a lot of people,
uh-huh.
you know, through modeling or the people from Roaring Camp or Oregon Coast Scenic or any of these operations, I certainly wouldn't have stuck with it.
No,
Yeah.
we're the direct result of people being nice enough to allow us to play with their trains. And
Yeah, exactly.
like if that hadn't happened, like the
and
motivation
passing the information on,
yeah, definitely.
passing the knowledge on,
Right.
you know, but both through modeling, you know, modeling has a lot of knowledge that people have passed on to us. We knew a guy who recently just passed away, who you did the layout tour of, Jim Vale.
Jim
Vale.
Vale, yeah.
Jim Vale, that's where we got our start operating model trains, like seriously through like car waybill,
Right.
you know, prototype
Right.
operations.
And his layout's not some toy. I mean, that was a
No.
serious layout.
It's
with
'cause
serious
Paul-
equipment.
Paul's grandpa knew Jim.
Yeah,
They hung out at the Columba together, didn't they?
No, they went to the Elks Club together.
Elks
in
Club,
Santa
that's what it
Cruz.
was.
And Jim was like, "Yeah, Paul should come on by, and I'll let him run my layout." And I was like, "Okay."
And then Paul
Yeah.
brought
See
me.
how twisted his arm was.
Yeah.
Paul
I invited
brought,
Trevor.
Paul brought me at some point,
Mhm.
and then we started and then I think I approached Jim asking like, "Hey, can we come over for like an operating session?" He was like, "Oh yeah, totally, come on over," you know. So, And we miss him a lot. If it wasn't for him, we definitely would not have stuck with model railroading. That's what got us into prototype.
And he gave me a lot of stuff too.
Generous guy. Oh yeah. No, me too.
And he's one of those guys too that I think he got it. I really regret that I never got to meet him.
Yeah.
The week that I heard of his passing was the same week I had it on my calendar to call him to do the layout tour. Because people kept telling me, well, you better call him because he's not doing too well and stuff. So I finally was getting around to it, and then I got the email. I was like, "Oh shoot!" Yeah. So I didn't get to meet him, but I got to film the layout.
Amazing layout, and a really, really generous guy. So if it wasn't, this goes out to the people, who are older that need to pass the knowledge on. Be generous to young people and pass your knowledge on, because that's the only thing that's going to keep this alive.
Right. Even if you find a specific kid annoying or something like that. Right? I'm sure I was one of those annoying kids.
Yeah.
Now, I wasn't an annoying kid that was trying to get into trains.
No, you're an annoying old guy that's trying to get into trains.
I'm an annoying old guy now.
Yeah.
But I work on that. I mean, that's a life accomplishment for me. I've been working on that for 50 years now. Yeah. So, but it's working?
It is.
Okay.
Yeah.
But
I'm talking about annoying kids like these guys 5 years ago or 3 years ago.
Yeah.
No, but
now,
even if somebody's kid is annoying or whatever, you feel like they're annoying, just tolerate it. I mean, it's not that big of a deal because it'll mean a lot to the kid, and that's one of those things that I think a lot of people just don't have patience for that.
I mean,
but it's not that big of a deal.
The hobby, and it's probably definitely not as popular as it used to be just because of all the other things that, kids can do these days. I mean, not that I don't play video games and stuff, but just
I don't play video games.
Yeah,
I do.
Right. Generally, model trains is not a super popular thing. I think if you you just don't allow people to do it, and you're holding it back, and you push people away, that's not helping the hobby grow. And when the hobby grows, more models are made, and that's good for you. And
right.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, think about that too. Another thing is a lot of guys that have these models are good at modeling too.
Oh, yeah.
So if something happens to the model, it's no big deal. You just fix it. Now if the kid throws it across the room, you might not be able to fix that, but that kid probably shouldn't be playing with trains anyway.
Yeah.
But my point though is that it's not that big of a deal, and you will make a kid stay. I mean, sometimes I'll be running down at the SBHRS. Doesn't happen very often because I just don't have a lot of time these days. Mm-hmm. But if I see some people come through and I got my phone with my Y throttle on it, and I see a kid looking, I'm like, hey, do you want to blow the horn? Kind of like what I was doing at the Fern Creek and Western last summer when I was operating there.
Mm-hmm.
And that was great.
And you see these kids just light up. It's worth it just to watch them when you hand them when you're showing them. You can show them what to do, but watch their face and notice how much joy you're bringing to them. That alone is a reward in itself.
Absolutely.
So anyway, we've been going for a long time. Maybe take a couple of questions here because I know it's been scrolling but we've been talking, so it's
that's fine. No, we'll take a couple more questions.
Take a couple questions and then we're going to go. So
because I have to go be at the Holiday Lights train at 2:30.
Yeah, maybe watch things scroll. So I want to mention something while you guys are going to type in whatever questions you have for these guys or for us as a group, whatever. I do want to mention that I want to thank everybody who signed up for Patreon. Thanks, Trevor.
Yeah,
I appreciate that. And thanks to you guys both for always, helping. There's always content that can be brought to people, and it helps. I think we help each other. I hope.
Yeah.
So even as a poor college student that works for a tourist railroad, I can still support John for $5 a month. So you can too.
Well, after that, what can I say? But thanks to everybody, because I know a couple of the people that are train crew members are talking in the chat here too. So
who are these guys?
Which ones? These guys here? Oh, I'm sorry. Well, I told people who you were in the beginning. This is Eric Child, Trevor Park, and Paul Nolan. I know these guys probably mostly from the Fern Creek. Well, I know you two from the Fern Creek Western, but I bet Trevor you were on an audio podcast like 4 or 5 years ago.
Yeah, because Brian introduced me to you guys.
That's right.
Yeah.
We were fans first.
Right?
Fans first. Yeah. I was like, those are the guys that make the roaring camp videos. They're so cool.
We've known each other for a while now, in case you can't tell just from the familiarity with our talking.
Yeah.
But Anyway, let's see what's going on here. How do you guys feel about the manufacturer's recommendation of 14 and older? That's Nick. Boy, Nick's putting all kinds of questions on here.
Good questions.
Well,
Nick's also a train crew member. Thanks, Nick.
yeah, I have this Gunderson container car that on the end of the package, I think it was like I don't know what company it was. I don't want to trash them. But on the end of the package, it said 14 or older. And honestly, it made me scared because I was about 11 when I had this.
Yeah.
And I thought they were going to come after me.
Did you pee your pants?
I mean,
Probably, huh?
probably, yeah. The
No,
stain's still there.
I would say I
I think
agree.
it's stupid.
I agree with the 14 and older for certain stuff, only because there are small parts and some kids can deal with it. So it's kind of it's
Well, for me, I was the kind of kid where I was already purchasing the top stuff when I was younger. Like,
I thought you were going to say you would go down and buy the X-rated magazines or something.
No,
Oh, good.
but
I was worried for a minute.
I was like 10, and I had like
This is a family
Bachman
show, John.
Shays,
Yeah.
and there was like a couple Genesis engines I had, and I took care of them. But I think 14 is a good general because there's so
Mhm.
many detailed parts that maybe if someone doesn't have prior experience with the hobby getting into it, before that they might destroy it if
Uh-huh.
they're not careful with it. But I think if you're a modeler and you've been doing it since you were young, the age doesn't matter at all.
Although I got to tell you something, having removed some Athearn Genesis models out of packaging,
Mm-hmm.
I've broken off detail
Yeah.
parts.
Oh, yeah.
So-
and
so
maybe it should
I'm
be
careful. Maybe it should
70
be
and up.
55 and up.
Yeah,
You have
No.
to be able to order from the senior menu at Denny's in order to have model shreds.
yeah, I think
No,
it does.
honestly,
Real quick, because someone's complaining on the chat window. Hello, Jacksonville, Florida. Pinchy? Can't see it. Pinchy or
08.
Pinky? 08.
yeah.
Hi, CSX headquarters. Okay.
I was just gonna say, likely the reason that they do that is mostly just to cover themselves insurance-wise if some kid chokes on a part or
Liability.
Oh,
something.
swallowing
Because
a
that's
horn or
that's
something.
that's
Yeah.
mostly a liability thing.
Yeah.
They
which
might
is
just
why
have to put it.
I
there.
think they just
Yeah.
have to do that.
One
Don't-
thing.
Or
And
also so that when some kid pulls a model out and if they do break it, that the parents don't complain.
Yeah,
you know?
don't make it like don't
But-
let it
but-
be nervous for you. It's
don't like if it says 14 up,
shouldn't
it's
scare
not a
you.
big deal.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm one to tell kids to break rules, right?
Well, you were going to say something, Ari?
down at Ma, and the parents bring their kids in, and there's 3-year-olds, and you show them what to do, and they're good with it.
Right? Some kids can handle it. That's what I was
Some
kind of
kids
getting
can
to.
handle
'cause-
it.
Yeah,
There is always, particularly with the better quality, finer scale, the issue of small parts in that,
Mhm.
and that's the parent needs to know the child as to whether they would
exactly.
be able to not make a bad mistake. But kids are amazing. You hand them a remote control now, and they're they've got it long before any adult's going to know.
Yeah.
Especially the new electronic ones.
Yeah.
Kids get that stuff for some reason. It's
Yeah.
like it's in their DNA or something.
Right.
Probably from all the parents that have been using computers since the 80s or something like that.
Right.
I think, though, I will say that I think as a general rule, 14 is a good age. And I think Nick is probably more talking in the context of having kids showing up at the SBHRS, and some kids go bananas. I mean, I've known kids that are 10 or 11 and they act like they're 2. So that kind of kid,
And kids 17, 18 that do the same thing.
right? And guys that are 50 acting like they're about 5. I know
Yeah.
someone like that. You do too. Right? Yeah, that's Paul.
Yeah, Paul's 50
I'm
years
50. Yeah,
That's his fault.
old.
I sound it, don't I?
You do sound like you're 50. His voice.
you got to get it a little more gravelly, then you'll sound like a 50-year-old smoker.
Before we go, we should look at what's in your backpack.
Oh, right.
We're going to go, but we're going to look at what's in Paul's backpack because he wore this backpack in, and I was giving him crap about it earlier.
So let me.
Or you reloading it?
Yeah, just reloading it. So what are we taking out first? Well, why
I
don't
don't
you
know.
reach in?
Oh, should I reach?
The
Is
magic
something going to
backpack.
bite
It's
me?
not going to bite you.
You're not supposed to reach into a lady's purse, though.
I'm not a lady.
Okay.
This isn't a purse.
How do you know?
Okay, here's that.
So water bottle.
Oh, am I supposed to get
Yeah,
the rest
yeah.
of the stuff?
A flannel. The
Is
all
that-
important.
That's his underwear. Dude, what is this doing in here?
An unopened wrench.
What the hell?
You never know when you're going to need a wrench.
Yeah.
Is that in case the car breaks down?
Yeah.
What is
That's
this?
an empty pencil case.
What do you do with that?
Well,
wait,
well,
let's
look-
not
look
ask
in
him
the-
that.
Do we want to know what he
No.
knows?
Oh, I see what's going on.
Yeah.
Oh, another wrench.
So here's the little brother to
another wrench.
yeah
Pencils.
pencils.
They're supposed
What
to go in
is
the
this?
case.
Yeah, for the case, but they
I thought. Oh, it's 2 gloves.
they say
Yeah.
PK on them.
PK.
Paul,
What's the K for?
he's not supposed to give us middle
I'm not
name.
supposed to give my middle name out. Everyone has to guess.
Killer.
Sure.
Kevin. Is that it?
No.
Oh. Ken?
Oh, Kenneth.
Kenneth? Is
Yeah.
it? Yeah.
Mhm.
More water in case you finished the first one.
Yeah. 2 miniature water bottles.
So you can fill his bladder up twice.
Scissors.
I almost
Scissors.
poked you right with it. What is this? More pencils and stuff.
And a highlighter.
Oh.
Bro,
Highlighter. And another
be
pencil.
more careful.
Okay.
Yeah,
Jeez.
John.
That it?
God, we
Wait.
should make the 50
Well, what
now.
about the front pocket?
Oh, there's more?
I don't know. There might be. Oh, here's a multimeter.
What are you doing with all this stuff? Looks like there's pills in here. What is this?
Tic Tacs, maybe. Yeah,
A broken
drugs.
Tic Tac?
Maybe, yeah.
Or is it chalk? What is that?
I don't
Is
know.
that an eraser? Oh, well, that's
Is
No,
it
it's
like
like
a
rocks.
Lifesaver.
He has
Rocks?
rocks in his backpack.
Yeah. This isn't a bomb. I mean, it's a clock. That's a multimeter. And
That's
the
it.
backpack. That's what's in my backpack.
So the real story here. Actually, you know what? Put a comment in the comments. Let us know what you think he's carrying around this stuff.
What is the empty pencil case for, folks?
Why do I have 2
Your
wrenches,
best guess.
one unopened?
Why does he carry wrenches around?
Why is there a multimeter?
I've never known anybody that carried a wrench around in his backpack. Well, I do now. So yeah,
2 wrenches.
we're gonna go now.
2 wrenches, 2 water bottles. This is parallel.
Oh, maybe
And
there's
2
some.
gloves.
Maybe there's something. Well, I was gonna say one
2
of these
pencils.
probably belonged to O.J. Simpson, but you're probably too young to know about that.
And with that,
Yeah, we're oh, and a wrench. Oh, what are you doing?
Makes a nice little beat.
Little rhythm.
Okay, we're gonna dance on out of here. Yeah, thanks for coming. Thanks for watching. We went a little longer than I expected, but
That's never happens. It always happens when I'm around. I talk a lot.
yeah, well, that's okay. We'll catch everybody next time. And now we're gonna act like we're not talking, like we're talking to each other, but you can't hear it. Bye. Thanks for watching.
bye. Thank you.
Happy Christmas and Hanukkah.
Go
and
support your
everything
local
else.
heritage railroad and ride their holiday train.
Support your local train guy, video guy. Yeah. Patreon, TSG Multimedia /Patreon. Or no, patreon.com.
Just go to
/
TSG Multimedia's
Multimedia.
Patreon page.
It'll be a link in the description.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.